Every character in Marvel is inspired by nature. Each hero represents an animal. Heroes represent not just the good traits of the animal, but the bad ones too. You're going to be shocked throughout this video. Let's begin. 1. Spider-Man, Spider. We all know the classic story. Every Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and each one gains the powers of an incredibly strong spider. We still don't know exactly how Tom Holland got bitten, but at least we know his story is similar. The important point is that all the traits of a spider get passed on to a human. Wall climbing, defying gravity, and of course fast reflexes. Just like a spider darts away quickly when you get close to it, Spider-Men have those same fast reflexes. By the way, Tom Holland's reflexes actually went viral online at one point. Here's an interesting fact. Comic book creators Stan Lee and Steve Ditko have said many times that while designing Peter Parker in 1962, they were genuinely inspired by watching a spider climb a wall. Let's keep brainstorming. What other powers could a spider have? Of course, producing silk that can carry many times its own body weight. We've seen Tom's, Toby's, and Andrew's versions carry or push things far heavier than themselves. And of course there are the web shooters. The key detail here is that, except for Toby, Tom and Andrew don't produce their own webbing, they make it artificially. So which do you think is the better version, organic web shooters or the mechanical ones? Let me know in the comments. We've talked about the advantages, but what about the disadvantages? Many spider species are short-lived, most pass away before they even get old. Do you think that could be why Peter Parkers are always cast young? I'd recommend listening to all the other animal-themed heroes coming up, because some of these details might shock you. 2. Black Panther, Panther. I think you've got the idea by now. Marvel characters are inspired by nature, and the heroes who carry more of the animal's real-world traits tend to be loved even more. Chalad Black Panther is exactly one of those. If you think Black Panther is just a character built around technology, you're completely wrong. Here's the deal. The King of Wakanda carries the Black Panther title through a mystical power passed from father to son, not in some ordinary way, but through ritual. With the help of Wakanda's heart-shaped herb, the new king takes on the strategic hunting style of a panther from the forest. So how does a panther behave in nature? It's a night hunter, moves silently, and never rushes, exactly like Chala. One of the biggest traits of real panthers is camouflage, and the MCU showed us this through how the Black Panther suit itself acts as camouflage. And that's not all. Panthers are generally solitary animals, and Chala's story constantly explores the theme of the loneliness of being king. Don't forget to like the video before we continue. 3. Wolverine, Wolverine, the weasel family animal. There are actually two animal comparisons for the Logan character. One is the wolf. The other is the actual animal called the Wolverine. Looking at Logan's story, he has a very wild personality. In fact, especially in the X-Men series, his friends often tell him, "You're not an animal, Logan." The animal representing Logan is small but incredibly aggressive and never gives up. In fact, the Wolverine, the animal, is known for never backing down even against animals far larger than itself. And really, when we look at Logan, we see that he's extremely brave too. Do you think the MCU should bring Logan into the main Avengers team? 4. Wasp, Wasp, the insect. Just as Ant-Man represents an ant, Hope Van Dyne's wasp suit represents a wasp. And it's not just about the suit being yellow, the whole costume is designed around a wasp's traits: shrinking, flying with wings, and stinging power in the form of biological energy blasts. If you paid attention, even the wing sounds in the suit were deliberately made to resemble a wasp's buzz. But it's not only about the costume. Hope Van Dyne's personality traits match a wasp's too, like always taking the lead within the group. In fact, the comics played on the fact that wasps are often misunderstood because of their aggressiveness, and indeed, in the comics, Janet's character was written for years as just an angry woman. Do you think they could have diversified the wasp traits even more to create a more interesting character? 5. Ant-Man, Ant. If you ask me which character Marvel wasted the most potential on, I'd definitely say Ant-Man. Because outside of the suit, we've never really seen ant anatomy or traits reflected in Ant-Man. In fact, Ant-Man isn't even the one who invented or built the suit. Basically anyone could put it on, practice a bit, and become Ant-Man. That makes Ant-Man something almost anyone in the MCU universe can be. In fact, multiple family members own an Ant-Man suit. There's nothing that makes Ant-Man special. If the MCU had given him a unique bond with the suit, or written a scenario where only Ant-Man could wear it, the potential would have been much higher. When Scott Lang puts on the suit, he shrinks and gets a close-up view of ants, and with a device he can direct them. But honestly, that doesn't really make him an Ant-Man. Wouldn't it have been better if he'd taken on actual ant traits, like they did with Spider-Man? I'm really curious what you think. Let me know in the comments. 6. Vulture, Vulture. This is one of the best animal character comparisons. Our character represents a vulture. In real life, a vulture has a hunched, aged-looking posture with its wings. Visually, vultures look like old men, but despite that appearance, they're actually dangerous predators. The vulture character, which we first saw in Spider-Man: Homecoming, was matched to a vulture both in temperament and appearance. And it's not just visual. Vultures watch their prey from up high, wait patiently, and strike at the right moment. Toomes' entire plan in the MCU is said to be built on exactly that same logic. Here's an interesting fact: when the Vulture character first appeared in the comics, they specifically tried to give him the Vulture's strongest real-world trait, the ability to stay airborne for long periods and conserve energy. Want to know something even better? Vultures are seen in nature as scavengers, meaning they eat the leftovers others leave behind. And in the MCU, Toomes secretly collected leftover alien tech and equipment after the Avengers fought off invaders. I think that adaptation is brilliant. What do you think? 7. Falcon. Actually, when Sam Wilson's character was first introduced in the comics, his name came directly from the word for hawk/falcon. And it's not just the name. Here's the interesting part: in the comics, Falcon has a telepathic bond with an actual falcon named Redwing. The MCU adapted this a bit differently. As you know, a falcon's strongest trait is incredibly sharp eyesight and speed. But they have weaknesses too. They're vulnerable to falls from height, meaning once they lose their balance, it's hard for them to recover. Sam Wilson's story constantly explores themes of balance and trust. Don't you think it would have been legendary if Sam Wilson had commanded an entire squad of Falcons in the MCU? 8. Hawkeye. Sam Wilson isn't actually our only Falcon/Hawk themed character. Clint Barton has this theme too. Of course, the name Clint Barton directly ties to Hawkeye, a nod to his sharpshooting skills. But that theme has stayed limited to just being a reference to good archery. I think Clint actually had much more potential in the MCU that just wasn't used properly. By the way, you can check out all the arrows Clint uses in detail in the video I linked in the description. 9. Doctor Octopus. Otto Octavius is definitely one of everyone's favorite villains. It's true that the octopus comparison comes from his octopus-like arms, but it's not that simple. Introduced in 1963, Otto Octavius was written drawing on real octopus's strongest trait. Octopuses in nature are incredibly versatile, agile, and have remarkable problem-solving intelligence. Octopuses are considered among the smartest invertebrates in the real world. And of course, Otto Octavius is also an extremely intelligent character. I have to say, I really wish we saw more of Otto in the MCU. 10. Squirrel Girl. Doreen Green, despite her funny name, is written as one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe, though she exists entirely in the comics and hasn't appeared in the MCU yet. But you'll wish she had, because she's inspired by real squirrel traits, incredible agility and the ability to organize into large groups. A squirrel's greatest strengths are its rodent teeth and mind-blowing reflexes. Squirrel Girl repeatedly defeating even the most powerful villains in the comics might look like a joke, but honestly, I think it's a tribute to squirrels' real survival skills. This list could honestly go on forever, but for now I've covered part of it. If you want the rest of the list, write part 2 in the comments and I'll know to make that video for you right away. I really love how Marvel draws inspiration from animals. It makes the stories so much more interesting. If you created a Marvel character, which animal would you draw inspiration from, and what traits would you add? Write it in the comments, because I'm really curious what you'll come up with. Also, I'm curious, if Iron Man represented a creature in nature, which one do you think it'd be? Or what about Thor? And lastly, which animal character match do you think is the best one? Be sure to check out my video breaking down all the Spider-Man character cliches. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because Marvel, Avengers, and MCU breakdown videos come out regularly here. See you in the next video.